What was the history and evolution of the shonen battle genre truly like? I've never seen a proper, detailed video on this subject. In this video, I'll be going through the history of the genre, but I'll specifically be focusing on the origin of tropes and how they've influenced manga throughout time. There will be spoilers for major shonen battle manga, from Dragon Ball to Chainsaw Man. To my knowledge, the true father of battle manga is Kinnikuman, or Muscle Man, made in 1979. I haven't actually read all of these manga, so feel free to correct me on any mistakes. This manga focused on action, specifically martial arts hand-to-hand combat. Hokuto no Ken from 1983, or Fist of the North Star, was the next major battle manga. It also focused on martial arts. The story had a protagonist who had superhuman physical prowess and a martial arts style that could do internal damage through pseudoscience like pressure points. Next was Dragon Ball in 1984. It also focused on martial arts, but as the story progressed, a magic system and superhuman prowess started taking over, but I'll get to that. After this, hand-to-hand combat was definitely cemented as a staple of the genre. Most battle manga from here on used it, although some started bringing weapons into the mix. Seiya had magical armors and weapons in 1986. Rurouni Kenshin from 1994 was the first to have a protagonist use a katana as his primary form of combat. 1990's Yu Hakusho and 1997's One Piece had swordsman side characters, but they weren't the norm. In Kenshin, most characters used a sword or some weapon. 1996's Inuyasha also had a swordsman protagonist, but not many swordsmen besides him. Bleach further pushed this trend in 2001 when it introduced an entire cast of swordsmen. Initially, Ichigo was the only sword wielder, but when the Soul Society arc happened, dozens of swordsmen were introduced. Then the Arrancar arc introduced even more. 2004's Soul Eater also introduced a cast of characters who all fought with weapons. 2013's World Trigger also had characters primarily using weapons like swords and guns. Kimetsu no Yaiba, or Demon Slayer, in 2016 is the other recent example of a battle manga that primarily focuses on weapons. All of the others focus on martial arts or powers. The next tropes are tournament arcs and power levels. Kinnikuman introduced tournament arcs and power levels to the genre as a progenitor, but Dragon Ball was the one to popularize both of them. The original Dragon Ball had 3 tournaments, but in Z, they decreased. The Cell Games and the 25th World Tournament were the only 2, and neither of them were the focus of the entire arc. They just made up a small phase of it. Dragon Ball Super introduced 2 more tournaments. 1986's Saint Seiya had the Galaxian Wars as a tournament at the start. Yu Hakusho continued the trend, hosting 3 tournaments itself. However, only one of the sagas was primarily focused on it. The other 2 were just phases of the saga. 1998's Hunter x Hunter had a brief tournament at the end of the Hunter exam arc, and then had a story arc focused on a tournament in the Heaven's Arena arc. 1998's Naruto had a tournament stage in its Chunin exams arc. Fairy Tail from 2009 had the Grand Magic Games arc. My Hero Academia from 2014 had the Sports Festival arc, and Black Clover from 2015 had the Royal Knights arc. As for power levels, they only came about in Dragon Ball's second half after Kinnikuman. These were based on numbers. Yu Hakusho also had power levels, but it introduced another concept, spirit classes. These were based on physical abilities and amount of spirit or demon energy. They had class E to upper S. Classes were separated by power level numbers. Bleach was the next major story to have something like power levels. In this story, characters have Reiatsu, or spiritual pressure. Although there are no numbers, they function like power levels. Characters with a lower Reiatsu can't hurt those with a higher Reiatsu. Nanatsu no Taisai, or 7 Deadly Sins, also had power levels in 2012, but they were barely mentioned, showing that the trope was dying out. Kinnikuman and North Star focused on martial arts, but Dragon Ball introduced the prototype for magic systems. Characters used an energy within them called Ki, and it allowed them to use different types of special moves. It mostly consisted of characters firing energy beams from their hands. Saint Seiya had magical armors and weapons, but this trend wouldn't take off yet. Jojo had Hamon, but the abilities that came from this were also vague. Yu Hakusho had a similar thing to Ki, with spirit energy and demon energy. It's an energy that allows for vague abilities, but this story improved the magic for the genre by coming up with creative, unique powers with strengths and weaknesses. One Piece added another change to magic. Instead of the powers coming from within, devil fruits came from without. There was also no mana substitute. Characters had an unlimited amount of use of their powers. Hunter x Hunter continued where Yu left off and revolutionized magic systems for battle manga. Nen was very detailed and had several rules to make it a hard power system. It was the first expansive type system, which I explained in another video. It had moves that everyone could use, but then it also had Hatsu, a unique power for each character. It also had types that separate the powers. Naruto's chakra continued pushing the envelope. It created a magic system where anyone could theoretically learn 90% of the powers available in the world. It also introduced a rock paper scissors element to the magic. 2001's Fullmetal Alchemist had a very unique system that required no inner energy, like One Piece, and relied on science, but is unfortunately not an influential one. Bleach made a major wave by continuing power systems bound to weapons. In 2004, Soul Eater had a power system that was mostly bound to weapons. In 2009, Magi came with a few power systems. Jins were weapon bound like Bleach and Soul Eater. Magoi was like Nen and Chakra, an inner energy that could result in superhuman actions. Finally, there was plain and simple magic. This was done by manipulating energy from nature. It continued the elemental rock paper scissors from Naruto. Fairy Tail also had plain magic, based on inner energy, in 2009, but it was more vague and lacked many rules, similar to Yu Hakusho. World Trigger continued the inner energy trend in 2013, and its power created weapons, but was still weapon bound in a way. Hero Academia had genetic powers and functioned closer to devil fruits, no inner energy. Black Clover had plain magic based on inner energy, like Fairy Tail. Kimetsu had superhuman martial arts, kinda like a mix of North Star and Jojo's Hamon. JJK continued the inner energy trend with unique powers, like Hunter x Hunter and Naruto. 2018's Chainsaw Man had a vague power system based on the unique powers of monsters. I'm not sure how complex the villains in the battle genre were pre-1990 because I haven't read all of those manga, but I haven't heard anything special from them. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to take a bet that Yu Hakusho and Rurouni Kenshin were the start of complex villains. Yu introduced villains like Toguro, Sensui, and Yomi, while Kenshin introduced Shishio and Inishi. Toguro was obsessed with power and didn't want to age, so he became a demon to conquer these limits. It's also implied that he felt guilty for his actions and pushed the protagonist, Yusuke, to get stronger in order for Yusuke to kill him as punishment. Sensui saw the horrors of humankind and believed that humans were just as bad as demons. Yomi wanted to unite the demon world to make an army that could conquer all three worlds. Shishio believed in social Darwinism and wanted to rule Japan with it, going against the Meiji government. Inishi hated Kenshin for being responsible for his sister's death, so he wanted to deliver earthly punishment to the latter. One Piece had some slightly complex villains, but nothing on the level of these two. In 1999, Naruto was the next story to continue this trend, but it also evolved it. Not only did Naruto have complex villains, but it also introduced philosophical battles to the genre. Yu Hakusho and Kenshin had villains with complex motivations and beliefs, but they never debated them against the hero. With Naruto, heroes started debating with their antagonists to potentially change them. Naruto had plenty of examples: Zabuza, Neji, Gaara, Sasuke, Pain, Obito, and Madara. FMA had a complex villain in Scar, but no philosophical battles. Bleach had complex villains as well, and some philosophical battles. Ichigo vs Byakuya and Kisuke vs Aizen are the main ones. Magi had complex villains and philosophical battles as well. Kasim, Dunya, and Mogumet are the anime examples. Fairy Tail did both, as did Hero Academia, Black Clover, and Kimetsu no Yaiba. Jujutsu Kaisen and CSM had complex villains, but they didn't have philosophical battles. I call this elite squad the Gotei 13, but it actually originated from Saint Seiya. They were called the Gold Saints, but Bleach popularized this with the Gotei 13. These were 13 squads with captains, lieutenants, and unranked members. The next story to do something similar was Black Clover all the way in 2015. The Royal Knights were squads with captains, lieutenants, and unranked members. The latest story with something similar is Demon Slayer and its Hashira, or Pillars. They don't have squads, but they are elite warriors whose positions are filled when the Former One retires or dies, just like the Gotei 13. The trend of humans fighting a race of monsters was first brought to the genre by Yu Hakusho. Lolly had a good video on this subject, titled "Why Nearly Every Shonen Anime Follows This Pattern." Like he said, this usually comes with a protagonist that is part monster. Yu had humans versus demons with a partial demon hero. Inuyasha had humans versus demons with a partial demon hero. Bleach had humans versus hollows with a part hollow hero. Kimetsu had humans versus demons. JJK had humans versus curses with a hero that's part curse. CSM had humans versus devils with a hero that's part devil. The trend of the underdog outcast hero with a secret power started with Naruto. Naruto had a social outcast and loser with a demon fox inside him. Hero was the first to make this into a trend by having a quirkless hero in a quirk-filled society. He also had the secret power of One for All inside of him. Black Clover continued it with a magicless hero in a magical society. He had a secret anti-magic demon inside of him. Saint Seiya was the first to do a rescue arc with his Gold Saints arc. The heroes went to an enemy location and fought multiple 1v1 battles to save their friend in a time limit chase. This is the blueprint. It had 2 others, with the Poseidon arc and the Hades arc. Hunter x Hunter also had a rescue arc in the Zoldyck arc, but there wasn't much fighting. This was in 1999. Bleach turned what Seiya had into a trope with the rescue arc in 2003, known as the Soul Society arc. This arc had the heroes fighting 1v1s against a group of enemies in a time limit chase to save their friend. It also had one more rescue arc. That same year, Naruto had the Sasuke recovery arc, which followed the same formula. In 2005, One Piece had its own rescue arc, Enies Lobby, which followed this formula. Fairy Tail had a rescue arc in his Tower of Heaven arc. Hero Academia's was the Hideout Raid arc, except it was quicker. The heroes had a friend captured, but they didn't have any 1v1s. They just rescued him while other heroes did the fighting. The Shie Hasaikai arc is another rescue arc that is more like the rest, but the person the heroes are saving is someone they know. The next trope is the license exam arc. This is an arc where the hero has to go through some kind of exam in order to get their license or official status as a hero. Hunter started this with the Hunter exam arc. Naruto continued it with the Chunin exams arc. Black Clover had the Magic Knights entrance exam arc. Hero Academia had the Hero license exam arc. Kimetsu had the final selection arc. That's all as of 2023. The last trope is the war arc. Again, I'm unfamiliar with pre-90s manga, so there might have been war arcs there, but to my knowledge, Yu Hakusho was once again the trendsetter. The Three Kings arc was leading towards a 3-way war, but it changed courses and became a tournament. Bleach was the first to properly execute a war arc. In 2012, the Thousand Year Blood War arc started. In 2012, Naruto's 4th Great Ninja War also started. Magi's war in the Magno Shitad arc started in 2013. Fairy Tail's Alvarez Empire arc had a war in 2015. Black Clover's war arc started in 2018 with the Elf Reincarnation arc. Hero Academia's Paranormal Liberation war arc started in 2020. So far, those are all the war arcs in the major battle mangas. I feel like I did a good job at showing the evolution of the major tropes in the shonen battle genre through its biggest and most influential stories. To recap, there was the style of combat, magic systems, villains, Gotei 13, types of story ideas, and types of story arcs. If there was anything I missed or got wrong, let me know. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.